but I think I can create a copy too.
Okay,
So,
cool.
all right, we are on. We're on the air. We're live. World, hello. We're talking to Bradley Carter. He's the author of this amazing book. It's called Bodhi Crocodile. Let me show you the graphic here because it's a really cool graphic. And look, it's my wife. Hi, baby. You know what? I'm not gonna have time to eat. I'm talking to the world here. There's like literally tens of people watching, if not, 5 or 6. My wife. But anyway, so this is not a really sophisticated broadcast, but so yeah, Bodhi Crocodile is the name of the book. And Bradley, why don't you tell us give us the synopsis of what this book is about?
Well, it kind of takes you on a roller coaster of emotions, thrills. It's basically about a middle-aged man, about 45 years old. He's a grown man. He's a mute. He has a childlike persona. He's basically just a big kid. And throughout his journey, he's found roaming the streets looking for somebody, and he gets mixed up with some friends that he meets, and their pasts kind of catch up with them, and he's caught in the mix, caught in all the drama. And he likes to carry around with him this toy crocodile, this plush toy crocodile with him, and it kind of goes from there. But it's really it's really hard to say specifically like a plot line because it zigzags everywhere, which keeps it interesting, I think. But
yeah, it really does. It's by the way, we have some people watching. So Julie's here, and I think a couple of other people as they come in. If you've got any questions for Bradley or me, then feel free to just type them in the comments. I'll see them come in, and I can pop them up. Okay. So anyway, it's really cool. I don't want to give anything away, but it starts off really good. I love the way that you write, because you've got this great balance of you do this gritty description of the city that we're looking at and the people that are in it, but then you switch gears and talk about this Bodhi Crocodile and his story, and it's really endearing. So it's pretty cool. And early on in the book, they kind of get you. So.
Yeah. And there's more of that too. There's several scenes that I can remember that were even difficult to write. I mean, I knew how the story was going to go, and I'm just heartbroken. I'd stop and slam the desk and get up and walk around until I calmed down. So, and that was one of the first things I learned as a writer. If you can feel it, then your audience is going to feel it too.
Yeah.
And, these poor readers.
Well, I'm glad that I'm not the only one, because there were some parts in there that were difficult to just difficult to get through, because they were really, they really tugged at the heartstrings. Hi, Julianne Price. How are you?
Hi.
It's good to see you here, Julie, Bradley, Julie.
Nice to meet you.
So it's early on in the book, it's there are some really emotional scenes that I kind of had to stop and kind of gather myself and then move on. So.
I wondered about you whenever I thought he's going to read this and he's just going to have to stop at some point and just.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was, like Bradley and I are going back and forth when we're talking about the book. And, I told him, oh man, I can't believe it. I just got to this one scene where I'm not going to give it away, but I just got to this one scene and it gutted me. And, Bradley goes, yeah, it gets a lot worse. So. So I'm looking forward to that, but it really is. It's a great story already.
Well, thank you.
And I'm really enjoying reading it. So you're not a full-time author, right? You have a daytime job, right?
Yes, I'm a paramedic on the ambulance in Indianapolis. So I work 12-hour shifts at night. I come home, and then anytime I'm not with my son, which I get him every other weekend, like most single dads do. If I'm off work, I'll be writing. basically. I mean, I don't really spend much time. Well, especially now during this whole pandemic, there's not really much else to do. So
Hmm.
I don't spend a lot of time going out or going to the movies or anything like that. But
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
that helps. This COVID thing is gonna make you a little bit more prolific.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and you have seven books behind you, right?
correct. Bodhi is my seventh one. Yep.
Okay. So what's your what made you decide to start writing? I mean, you have you always wanted to write? Were you a big reader? There's
Growing up, I was always good at the
D.L.
creative
Lane.
writing
D.L.
stuff.
Lane is another. I'm sorry. Let me
Hey,
interrupt you. Again. D.L. Lane is a great writer
all right,
as
right on.
well, and we've worked together as well. So it's really good to see you,
Hi,
D.L. Lane. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
another
Bradley.
fellow author.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. No, I just actually I just lost my train of thought. We've been
So I
talking.
was asking you like what it was that made you decide that you wanted to write. Did you
Oh yeah,
always
okay.
know that you wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, it was. I remember in grade school and stuff, like the creative writing classes, and my teachers would always say, "Oh, this is great." I remember winning a poetry contest for some elementary school project,
Hmm.
but it was never really something I was into as far as reading. I was always kind of a movie and TV guy. I wanted to go to film school. I wanted to write scripts and stuff, and that's kind of how this whole thing started. When I moved up here to Indianapolis from my hometown, I was kind of messing around just as a hobby with, excuse me, with writing screenplays and stuff. And I found some contests online, and I thought, well, I can just at least submit to the contest, maybe win a few bucks.
Hmm.
But I, one of my friends on online, her husband is his name's Justin Bridges. He's my editor. He's kind of my guru. He has
Okay.
a master's in English, and he read one of my scripts, and he's like, "Dude, you should turn this into a novel. You really should." And I thought,
Wow.
I don't even read books, but I
Hmm.
started reading books, and it just kind of took off from there overnight. So
Well,
it
yeah.
was
So
weird.
there has to be a real talent to that because it's not something. Like, it doesn't sound like you've had a whole lot of formal schooling in doing this. But as I'm reading
No,
these stories that you're writing, or this particular story that you're writing, I mean, you're so descriptive. I can feel where what you're writing about. Like it feels as if I'm there. So yeah,
oh,
that's a real talent.
I appreciate that. Yeah. It was difficult going through. Usually I write one or two drafts at first, and then we'll go through and polish up the whole thing. And I remember thinking, like when I was a little kid getting ready to go to bed, I'd shut off the light and bed real quick so the boogeyman didn't get me underneath, or the monster under the bed didn't get me. And that's
Yeah.
how I felt going back through Bodhi in some of those heartbreaking chapters, because my editors would say, "Oh, you need to add this or revise this," and I'd open up the chapter and kind of cover up the and heartbreaking, and I'm quickly going through and making my changes
Yeah.
and get back out just as quick as possible.
Well, you can
So
tell that
it's,
you put a lot of love into this story. It really is. I mean, it really
oh yeah.
does seem like you treat every single word like it's something special.
Bodhi is one of
So
my favorite characters ever in any
yeah,
movies or TV or books or anything. He's and I don't mean to say this because I made him, but he's like a lovable character. He's a lovable guy,
yeah.
and he
Oh, yeah,
doesn't steal
he's
words.
very lovable. Everybody loves that guy. So Sandy Shannon says hi to us both. So hi, Sandy.
Hi.
Sandy's watching on YouTube, and we have various pages that we're on. We've got YouTube, we have Bradley's channel, we have my channel, a couple of my channels, I think. So it's pretty cool. I love these Facebook lives. I mean, it's really cool to just be able to kind of like talk to my favorite authors and discuss the stuff that we're doing. I mean, audiobooks, it's one of my favorite things. So
Sure.
I've got it's pretty cool to get to talk to you and see and learn like what makes you tick and
Sure.
what you enjoy about the writing process. And by the way, so cheers to you. I'm gonna
Oh yeah.
cheers
Sure.
to you. And this is like so. This is really the first whiskey you've ever tasted.
hmm
All
Yeah.
right.
I've mainly had vodka my entire life. I've never really sat down and I guess I wasn't really afraid of trying whiskey. I mean, I've had the smell of it and I thought, I don't know, but this
Yeah.
stuff's really good. The stuff you recommended, but
Yeah, so Bradley asked me. He said, "I've never had whiskey before. What do you recommend?" And so I thought, well, okay, so um, it's, whiskey being an acquired taste, you have to, you kind of have to like ease into it, like dip your toe in, and then move forward from there. But there's this whiskey that I tried that's, the Japanese make some incredible whiskeys, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's like they've these distillers in Japan have discovered this. It's called the coffee still method of creating whiskey. It's an old method. It started in Scotland way back in the day, but it's this step. It's like a multi-step distillation process, and the Japanese have taken that process and just run with it. And now they're winning all sorts of international awards for their whiskeys,
Wow.
and they can make these real, oaky, hearty, and smoky whiskeys. But they also make these really wonderful lighter whiskeys, and that's the one that I recommended to you. What is it called?
The Centauri, which
Centauri. Yeah, they have
which I
they
thought
have a
was
couple
great
of
in the
different
movie. Uh,
yeah, flavors. But yeah, we were talking about that in the it was in the movie
yeah, Lost in
Lost in
Translation.
Translation.
Yeah, with Bill Murray, making Centauri time.
Hmm.
That was great
Yeah, that
fun.
was pretty cool. And so anyway, I recommended to Bradley that he start out with that Santori and try it. But anyway,
It's good.
if you like whiskeys and haven't tried a Japanese whiskey, there's some really good ones out there.
They
Then
make a lot of good stuff. I like the Japanese beer, Sapporo.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
they have. I like going out to when I go out for sushi or whatever. I always get one of those with me. But
yeah.
yeah, they make
Sushi is
good
like
stuff.
that's a relatively new discovery for me. I've had sushi off and on, all my life, but
Mhm.
once my wife and I met, she loves sushi, and so we started eating sushi. That is like the best.
Oh yeah,
It's yeah, I mean, it's like you can. It's so filling. You don't realize how much you've eaten, but
hmm
it's just some good sushi is pretty amazing stuff. So
that's my pleasure food right there.
yeah, yeah, I love it. So so this is your seventh book. Do
Mhm.
you have any as and I don't want to it's funny like when you listen to a band that's new to you, and when you listen to an or when you read an author who is new to you, there's always this temptation to like compare them to somebody. Like you hear a band and you're like, "Oh yeah, you sound like Pearl Jam," or "Oh
Right.
yeah, you're," and the same thing with with an author that that you really like. It's always tempting to kind of compare them. So I'm not going to do that to you, but
Okay.
I would like to know, who do you who what authors do you like to read?
Um, well, I say the very first book that I actually read, the first novel that I read once I started writing. I
Hmm.
mean, I read Treasure Island as a kid, just whatever stuff for school. But the one I actually sat down with when I started doing this was Chuck Palahniuk, and I know he's known for
Oh
Fight Club
yeah,
and everything else. And I always said like being a writer following Chuck Palahniuk is like being a film director following Quentin Tarantino. It's like this whole
right.
trend kind of thing. But
Mhm.
I still haven't read Fight Club. I read his one of his books, Choke, which was also
Mhm.
made into a movie. And it was the first time I actually I read a book before I watched the movie. And
Hmm.
now I understand
Yeah.
that whole phrase, the book's better.
Oh
Choke was
yeah,
a great,
it's really hard to come up with a movie. Like I can count on three fingers movies that lived up to the book. You
mm,
know, I mean, I think like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I think
yes.
was one that to me that that filled the boots of the book. The book was great, and the movie didn't disappoint. Um, Lord of the Rings. I loved the Lord of the Rings and the way that they treated those books, which were like big favorites of mine. But yeah, I don't know if there are any other movies that really do that for me, where I
That,
can where I'm happy.
while I was writing Bodhi, through the 10 months I was writing Bodhi, I'd go to work at night and I'd open up my Kindle and I actually was reading The Shining by Stephen King because I've seen the
Mm,
movie a zillion
mhm.
times and it's
Yeah.
spectacular. And I just wanted to kind of read the book, and I there was obvious some changes in it. I mean,
Mhm,
Wendy's a blonde lady in the book, and he doesn't use an
mhm,
axe; he uses a croquet mallet. But
mhm.
I kind of like the movie better. I mean, there's something about an axe That just kind of compares to a
Yeah.
croquet mallet. But it was definitely a good
It was
book.
great.
I
Yeah.
try to read some Stephen King every now and then. And I know a lot
Mhm.
of people read Stephen King, but just really anything. I like Chuck Palahniuk's style though a lot.
Yeah.
He really moves the words around and gets the pace
Yeah, I was
going.
trying to there's a book that I read of his, and I don't remember what it was, but it was just an amazing book that I didn't even understand until I was about 70 to 80% through the book was when I realized, oh, wait a minute, this guy is going back in time, and he's like he's affecting things through this book. And it really was. It's just a like a mind blowing book, and I don't remember the name of the book, but it was really pretty amazing. And that was the only Palahniuk book that I've ever read.
Oh,
But
there was another one I read too of his, and I can't. The title escapes me, but it was something about sex toys and
oh yeah,
husbands are obsolete, and all these women are buying all these sex toys, and they lose their minds and kill
oh
all of their
no,
husbands or something. But
we're not that
oh
far away from that. I don't I don't know if the girls have caught up with the guys, but I mean, we've got these real dolls that are like, wow. I mean, you've got
yeah,
speaking of Japan, I mean, the Japan is where they really get the freak on really big, where they've got guys marrying their real dolls, which is
yes, I've seen that,
it's pretty
and
crazy.
those are expensive.
But on the one hand,
That brings up.
you
Oh,
think
go
about
ahead.
it, it's a good thing because this is an outlet for people to experience intimacy and relationships if they're not, if they don't have access to, if they don't have the social skills to find somebody to be with,
Mhm.
um, and or if they're just not in a place where they can, meet people. But then at the same time, there's so many ways that we're checking out from society and checking out from real relationships. I mean, you can
Mhm.
say the same thing about how television has become like a surrogate for relationships, and these cell phones, when we're sitting here interacting on Facebook and Twitter and things like that. It becomes like a substitute for actual relationships. But
Right.
yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to come of that.
That actually brings up. It's funny you mentioned that because my third book is called Brightside, and
Mhm.
it's also one of the. I think between the two, Bodhi and Brightside are my favorites. But it's
Mhm.
about a guy who falls in love with a girl at work, and he's afraid to ask her out because he has some medical condition that he
Mm.
struggles with. But to bide his time, he bought a sex doll that looks just like her. He doesn't have sex
Wow.
with her,
Mhm.
but like he'll go to work and he'll see what she's having for lunch, and then he'll come home and cook dinner and eat that same meal with the doll, or
Wow.
he'll notice the bracelet she's wearing and he'll go buy the bracelet and put it on his doll. It's a fun story. It was my third one, but
Yeah.
it's so heartwarming and funny and kind of twisted at the same time. But that's funny,
Isn't that
yeah.
interesting? It's funny, like a good writer can make you consider things that you never would have considered before. I mean, it sounds like he made this thing sound like, oh, okay, well, that's like a natural thing to do. That makes
Right,
sense to me. Like you can imagine doing that. But then meanwhile, imagine being the poor girl who finds out that some guy bought a doll that looks exactly like her, and he has the same meals that she has with her, with his doll. That's that would be pretty disconcerting, I
it's
think. But
it's got a good twist at the end. I'll say that. And actually, I put the first chapter in. There's a sample to Bodhi Crocodile. I put that at the very end. There's a first chapter of uh, just because it's all one of my favorites.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I have noisy neighbors upstairs. I apologize.
Oh, that's all right.
I
Yeah,
don't have
no,
a soundproof room. Keep it.
I don't think you can really hear it like once it's we're listening on Facebook through our computer speakers and things like that. So, I mean, I pay attention to
Mhm.
that stuff a lot more than I think we need to. But so that's like it brings up a good point when you talk about the uh, and by the way, yeah, the body, the movie that turned into Stand by Me, or the book that turned into Stand by Me, an incredible book. I mean, it's such a great story that the way that Stephen King writes. So yeah, Deanne, I agree with you. That's another great Stephen King book. Another one of my favorites of King's is Salem's Lot, because I mean, God, you read Salem's Lot, and like it'll take you a week to to come back to the living after after reading that book. But really good book. But
Wow.
yeah, I think like good writers are so important because they do kind of they live in the future and they think about ramifications uh, and they extrapolate from what's going on now into what could be in the future or what could possibly be a scenario that could happen as a result of what's going on right now. So that's it really is. I have a lot of admiration for really good writers.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I definitely the first person I picked for Bodhi on the. I mean, it took you have all the samples and stuff up there, and I heard the sample this
Oh,
first time, and I text messaged my editor Justin. I said I got the guy. I just hope he does it. And
thank you.
like I said, I listened to the first 15 minutes last night. I listened to that. It was a good hour that you put up on the Dropbox file.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Uh,
got. I'm
I
almost
was kind
halfway
of
through the book.
I was kind of looking for. I was halfway.
Yeah.
I was kind of worrying a little bit at the chapter 2 when the baby comes in, where Bodhi gets his name.
hmm
And I mean, you have a really deep voice, so I was thinking, I wonder if he's gonna be able to pull this off. And you did. It was spectacular. I don't think you could have
Oh,
got
cool.
a toddler to do it better. Like it was amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well, that's a really cool thing. Like, being a narrator is the best because like I get to play all the parts. I get to be the announcer or the, like the narrator. I get to be the
Mhm.
hero, the heroine, and like these goofy side characters. I get to be everybody and the villain as well. So it's really cool. It's a
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. I can't wait to hear your Skinner from
oh
Bodhi.
yes,
That's
Skinner. Yeah, so it's really cool. So one of the things I think is cool for people who are watching, you know, for people who are watching uh, these lives, I think that part of what makes it cool for people who enjoy audio is to kind of like get a peek behind the curtain and see like, okay, how do you guys do this? So when Bradley's talking about listening to the stuff on Dropbox. What we did was, I set up an online folder for the two of us, and I record and then I upload the session, which is basically just me recording with the mistakes and all that stuff. And then, Bradley has access to all of that stuff. So he can listen to all my craps and me screaming at myself, God damn it, Troy, get your shit together. But then he can also listen to after I've edited all that crap out. And then there's a whole other folder where I've done like all of the sweetening, and I take out the noise, the noisy sound effects and and then then that's when I can apply like the voluming and the EQ and things like that. So you get to see like Bradley gets to see the whole process from beginning to end, which is I guess kind of cool and kind of not too. Like you don't, like when you see how the sausage is made, it kind of, yeah, I don't know if that takes away from the end product, like once you get to see it in the begin in, from beginning to end. So,
Mhm. I heard the whole hour last night, and I think there were only 2 times where you stopped and redid a line, and I thought that's better than I could do. I mean, when I'm reading somebody to somebody, I stutter over my words all the time.
oh yeah,
And
I don't know. I don't know what
but
the deal is. Like, yeah, well, reading your stuff it's easy, relatively easy, I should say. But I mean, a lot of times I'll just like, I'll do a line and then I'll think to myself, oh, wait a minute, that didn't, that kind of sucked. I'm gonna redo it like this, in a different way. So,
mm,
so Julie is asking, where do you get your ideas for your books? I think that's interesting. And Julie, by the way, she and I are pretty good friends. We chat back and forth, and she's working on her writing, and has not been
oh, wow.
published yet, but she enjoys writing herself.
Oh, wow. Right on. Yeah, the very first book that I wrote was called Red Flags, and it was actually based on a really toxic relationship I had just gotten out of. And there
Mhm.
were so many things that I went through that were just shocking to people, that my friends and stuff, that I told them to, and they every one
Oh,
of them said, just put it in a book, put it in a story. And that was actually the first script that I wrote, the story
hmm.
that I wrote, Red Flags. And of course, I made it fictional. I gave all my problems to a fictional character, and
Red flags. Oh, that's
yeah,
great. I think anybody who's been in a crap relationship can totally relate to that. Like, oh
yeah,
shit, why didn't I see that red flag? What the,
right.
what was I thinking? I should have known when she brought the knife to bed. I should have known. By the way, I've
Well,
got a
it's
story
kind
for
of
that.
fun
And by the
now.
way, hi Brooklyn. Brooklyn Knight is
Hi, Brooklyn.
she's a wonderful writer too. She wrote a book called 5 Years, which really is very cool. Well, speaking of relationships and stuff like that, this whole thing is based. Her whole book is based on a relationship. But anyway, so I was dating this girl, and we were asleep, and I had this dream, and I woke up with a start, and she said, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I had this terrible dream that we were laying in bed just like we are right now, and that I looked up, and over my shoulder I saw that you had a knife, and you were trying to stab me, and I was like trying to grab at the knife, and you were saying, 'If I can't have you, nobody can.'" And she she goes, "Yeah, that sounds like me." And then she went back to sleep, and I was like sitting there all night long going, "Oh shit, what have I got
No.
myself into?" So anyway, speaking of red flags.
Oh well, I just like I was saying, I kind of threw gave all my real problems to this fictional character, and I spiced it up. There's a lot of bloodshed and stuff that really didn't happen, but all the relationship
Mm,
stuff was based on that. And there's some twists and turns. There's a lot of foreshadowing. There's a lot of clues and revelations that go throughout that book. And then I think my second book was actually based on the villain from that story, which was not my ex girlfriend,
really?
but
Wow.
one of the murderous villains in that story. So it kind of went on from there.
Mhm.
I usually just have a lot of stuff that I've experienced in real life, except for
Mhm.
Bodhi. Bodhi was different. Bodhi, in comparison to my other books, he just came out of nowhere. And
Mhm.
I know that fiction comes from the subconscious, but I've always told people that I feel like there's like an alternate parallel universe with fictional characters wandering around looking for people to tell their stories because they can't write books themselves. And
Yeah.
that's how it felt when I came up with the idea for Bodhi. I mean, I woke up one morning and the idea was in my head. It's like he chose me to tell his story. And
Yeah.
even in the beginning of the book, I say, this is not my book. It's not my story. It's Bodhi's story.
Mhm.
And so he's really not based on a lot of experience. I think there's one chapter, and I'm not going to get into
Mhm.
it yet, but there's one chapter that I did base on real life from my job, a run that I had for my job that just seemed to fit. But the rest of the story, it just
Oh,
I don't know. I
okay.
can't really explain where it came from. It's just
Huh.
he just kind of showed up in my life one day, and he's been there ever since. So
It's funny. I hear that. I hear that occasionally. Like, authors will say, "I don't know where they came in from." I'll be writing a
mhm.
book, and this other character will come knocking on my brain saying, "Hey, we need to talk about my story." And I'm like, "No, you need to wait. You need to wait in the back." And then they just become insistent. And the next thing you know, you're like, "All right, let's get on your story." And next thing you know, you're
Yeah,
writing three books at the same time.
that's what happened with Red Flags. Like I said, the villain was completely made up, and then by the end of
Mm.
it, he's like, "Hey, I want a book too." So the second book is based off of him. It's kind of
Yeah,
his backstory. But yeah,
that's
stories
really
write
cool.
themselves, and that's what I find fantastic about it. I mean, again, I know if you were to get a psychologist in here, they could probably explain more. But I just like
Yeah,
to live off the whim that Bodhi comes along and he needs a story, and the story tells itself, and you don't really have to put a lot of effort into it.
yeah,
When I sit down and start writing, you just the scene just kind of plays out,
yeah. I think that's
and
pretty
that's what
cool.
I find fascinating about it. That and the fact that I get to get inside people's heads and
Yeah.
really trigger their emotions and stuff. Though that's kind of a fun part too.
Yeah, that's kinda cool about being an author too, is that you get to, like I'm talking about, "Oh, I get to be the voice of all these different things." Well, you get to be the voices of these people too. and that
Yeah.
you're like you become their personalities while you're writing from their point of view. So Deanne asks, does he give you input and suggestions? And the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, we were talking about Skinner when I did the audition for this book. Skinner is this he's a bad guy, and
Mhm.
he's pretty sinister, and so I came up with my own voice for him. Like I don't remember the voice that I came up with, but I think it was kind of like a higher pitched voice and a little bit sinister and kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, just a kind of creepy guy. But then you said, well, actually when I was writing for Skinner, I was imagining the bad guy in The Crow with Brandon Lee. And
Michael.
so then I thought, oh yeah, that guy's really creepy, but he's kind of got more of a scratchy voice. And so I did. So Skinner became Skinner because of Bradley's, what Bradley saw in his head. And I'll listen to, like, an author will oftentimes say, yeah, if I could cast this character in a movie, it would be this person or something like that. And I don't imitate that character. I just kind of like let that character's personality kind of inform what I'm reading. So,
I like to use a lot of references, but I don't like to necessarily say, "Oh, I want it to be like this." One of the things, again, like you were talking about with the bands are like, "Oh, this sounds like Pearl Jam. This sounds like whatever."
mhm,
Um, Sometimes I'll be talking to my editor and I'll come up with an idea and kind of let him know, "Hey, this is what I want to do with this story," and he'll say, "Oh, that reminds me of this book," and I'm like, "That's
mhm.
no, don't do that." Like that makes me feel unoriginal. But
Yeah.
just I remember Michael Wincott I think I think I'm saying that right, is the actor who played in The Crow as the bad
Mhm.
guy, and I just liked his
Oh, the bad
raspy
guy.
voice,
Yeah.
like just that, and
Mhm.
then, but
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
sounded like he smoked about 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
right, and then the Skinner character, I mean, he's a short guy, he's not tall like that guy, he has long hair, but it's, kind of messed up and just curly and
Mhm.
crazy,
Yeah.
but it's not straight like his, so I really don't try to say, yes, I want this character to be exactly like this person, but it
Mhm.
does help throw in those little references. I think Alvy, uh, you'd asked who I thought of Alvy if we were to play like a movie.
Mhm.
The one guy, I can't think of his name, but the short pudgy guy, I remember him from Howard Stern's movie, Pig Vomit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
can't think
He's
of
a
his
great
name,
actor
but
too. What is that guy's
yeah,
name?
I'm gonna look it
Yeah,
up.
I don't remember his name, but okay, yeah, I know what you're saying though. Okay.
That's kind
That's
of who I pictured. Like I do that too. I'm thinking, well, if this were going to be a movie,
mhm.
who would I want to cast for this part?
Yeah,
And um, he was definitely on it. I'm gonna have to look this up because that's gonna
that's
bother
pretty cool.
me.
So Brooklyn asks, for how long do you practice each character's voice? Um, it's funny. They pretty much come to me, although sometimes every now and then I'll read through a character and I'll be reading for a little while, and then I think to myself, you know what? That doesn't really sound like his voice. Like this character is not matching up to what I originally set up for him. So I'll have to go back and give them a different, kind of a different treatment, or maybe an accent or something. One time I went through, and this man drove so it kind of you know really good narrators will read the entire book and then they'll go back and they'll do their thing and they write notes in the margins of the book and all that stuff. And me, I just like read it. And sometimes I find out at the end of the goddamn book that the character had a British accent or something. I'm like, oh shit, I've got to go back and I've got to read this whole damn thing again because I could give this guy a British accent, or he needs a Southern accent or something like that. So that's my fault. That's like the danger of not pre-reading the book. But in my defense, so here's the thing. I mean, especially when we're talking about Bradley's book, um, I like to find out at the same time as the listeners what's going on with the book, what's going on with the story. Because, like, as I'm reading this, I mean, half the time in the back of my mind, I'm saying, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I think that helps me to, like get into the book. I mean, sometimes I have to like stop and, not be, so emotional or whatever. I have to, like, narrate it. I have to, like, channel my inner Morgan Freeman. Um, you know, but it's funny when you were talking about that book, Red Flags, that you wrote, and
Mhm.
the girl that you were going out with, and I'm thinking about this stuff. When you go back and you look back on the relationship and you go, oh, you know what, that was a red flag, and this was a red flag. I should have recognized it here, and I definitely should have kicked her to the curb there, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But I'm thinking to myself, like, as if I'm writing this book, I'm hearing Morgan Freeman's voice in my head going, but it was not okay. She said it was okay, but it was not okay.
It's a good reference. I like Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, he's so cool. Like, whenever I do something, like I'm cutting fruit or something, and I cut my finger or something, I always hear Morgan Freeman's voice in my head saying, "He realized he wasn't paying attention a moment too late." Paul Giamatti, that's the guy. Thank you, Justin. Yes,
Yes,
so
thank
Paul
you.
Giamatti is the
I
guy's
had it
name.
pulled up, and I wasn't about to say his name because I would have
Okay,
tortured that.
yeah. So, but
Yes, and that's
so the
Justin.
answer,
That's
I do bad guys really good. So I
awesome.
like that. I don't know I don't know if that says good things or bad things about me, but
Hey, we're all warped in some way. It's okay.
yeah. So, but yeah, it really is. It's a lot of fun reading your book, and I'm enjoying it. I think that I don't know. I think this is going to be one of those books that I really, really enjoy. That I'm real proud to, to have on there. I haven't screwed it up yet, I guess is what I'm saying. So
No, I think
I'm
you're doing great. I think it's. Um, I told Justin Bridges is actually my editor. He's the one that gave us Paul's
Hmm,
name. I guess he's watching, but I told him.
okay.
I said I I sent him. It was your what's the script that the file that you sent me whenever I first asked you about it.
Yeah, yeah. The
But
audition.
the audition. Thank you. Word just gave me. But yeah, I sent him that. And I said, "This is the guy. This is the guy." I mean,
That's cool.
Terrence Brown's story kind of starts off with Bodhi's, and it takes place in that that rough part of town. And
Hmm.
I thought about having a more urban sounding narrator, but like I said, I clicked on your voice and I heard your sample, and I thought, no, to hell with that. We're gonna go with this guy. So
Well, that's cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I mean, it really is. It means a lot to, like, when you're chosen by the author to read their book. It's it means a lot. Like, you really have to be, really careful and treat these characters that this author has given birth to with respect, and as much you try. I try to, like,
oh,
you treat them with as much care as you took in making them, so so as to not to do justice to to the characters that you wrote, because I couldn't write them. It's not an easy thing to write. So just reading the characters out is a pretty cool privilege, so I enjoy that. I think so. Either Bradley is having a stroke, or he's been hit with a freeze ray, or he's lost his internet connection. So if you guys can still hear me, I'll keep talking until Bradley's internet connection catches up with us. But Josela Lopez asks the question: are you going to do any more Lost Kings books? And the answer is yes. And as a matter of fact, I think that I just finished doing a Lost King story, and it takes a long time for these books to go in, because, like, they, my part of the process is a small part, and it's it takes a little while to get the process done. Like, I read it, record it, upload it, and then it's in the hands of the gods. Then, the audio gods who are doing the mastering and the EQ and the production and then all of the distribution and stuff like that. It's a big job. But yes, so the short answer is Lost Kings are on their way. The long answer is I don't know exactly when. So that's all I got. So Bradley's back. I lost you
I'm
for a
back.
minute.
Sorry. Yeah, I was afraid that my internet sometimes kicks off and I have to restart. I don't know why. I'm paying extra for good internet and it's still not going through. But I was afraid that was going to happen. But if it does again, I'll just click back off and come back on again. So.
All right. Well, no worries. Well, we've been on for a little while, so we can probably wrap this up. But and I think that it's really cool that we get to hang out for a little bit. Yeah. There was when I saw you drop out, I thought about that. Do you ever see that skit where they said, if face-to-face meetings were like online meetings, and they show this conference room where somebody is sitting at the somebody opens the door and they walk in and then they walk right back out, and then they walk in and they walk right back out, and it basically shows people behaving the way that that we all behave on online meetings or conference calls, but they're doing it in person, and it was really funny. I was imagining you sitting there going, hello. Yeah. Hello. And then, one of the characters in this skit did the exact same thing that you were doing. Like while you were gone, your internet connection cut off on you. You were just sitting there with the same expression on your face. And I said, well, I think Bradley might have had a stroke, or maybe he got hit with a freeze ray or something. But
that'll be interesting.
In this skit, they did the same thing. Like there's one person who's like sitting there, like with the same expression, and like nobody can hear him. He's just gone. So all right, so the book is called Bodhi Crocodile. I'm going to show you the screen one more time because I think that the graphics are really cool, and I think that you do such a great job with your the way that you like these things, because the graphics look a lot like what you're going to hear or see when you look at that. Deanna's shaming me. Deanna's like, oh hell, really? You don't read a book before you plan out the narration? No, I don't. I'm a bad narrator. But anyway, so the book looks like your story, and I love the story. I think it's it's just such a great story, and you can kind of feel yourself in the place. So it's it really is a blast.
I have to give credit to my friend Amy Wilkie for doing the design cover on there. I mean, I kind of doodled on a napkin what I pictured the cover to look like, which was what you see there. But he was standing under a street light, and when she sent me this, it's exactly how I picture Bodhi, exactly to the T. I mean, the dark hair, the facial expression. And I told her that. I said, I'm putting this on the cover because, I mean, it's one thing to describe a character and have other people imagine it their own way, but actually putting him on the book exactly the way I imagined it, it helps, because you're going to see that character. And it also tells a whole lot about the story. I mean, he's got a stuffed toy crocodile in one hand and he's got a gun in the other. So I mean, that kind of really gives you a sense of where the story's going to go. But I'm pretty sure Bodhi's going to be the easiest for you to narrate because he doesn't speak.
He doesn't say a word, but he's so cool. So okay, before I let you go, I'm going to ask you one last thing. You need to tell me the story of. So it was really cool the way that you described how, like, what his name meant, because the toddler says his name, but the name Bodhi, it means something, right?
Right. It's a Buddhist term, means enlightenment, free from the cycle of life, just basically innocent, pure. But again, he was given this name by a 2-year-old toddler that speaks baby babble, and just pointed at him and said, Bodhi, and so everyone, not sure if you got to the part where the crocodile part. But he's a big fan of the mobster movies. Bodhi likes to sit and again, he's a grown man. He likes to build a couch fort in his living room and watch mobster movies. And I
I have not made it to that part yet. I'm thinking to myself,
Okay.
like, as I'm seeing his story, I'm like, where does he go when he's not at the diner? And I guess I'm
Yeah.
about to find out, right? Because,
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that, but
I won't
but
talk about it, but he does. There's another part where he gets the crocodile name, and
okay,
it all kind of comes together toward the middle of the story. But yeah,
gotcha.
I love Bodhi. He's my favorite.
He's a good guy. Yeah, he really is. Bodhi is so cool, and so I'm really looking forward to getting this book done and getting it on the shelves so that people can hear it, because I think it's going to be a really special story. So.
Thank you. Well, it's available on Amazon right now, paperback and Kindle. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So if you want to, yeah, go grab it off Amazon. You can read it, and then when you hear it on Audible, you can say, like Deanne said, I can't believe you don't read through the book before you narrate it. But no, I'm giving you a hard time there. Actually, I'm giving myself a hard time. I'm poking fun of myself. So, but anyway, yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Maybe if you grab the book off Amazon, read it, and then I'm guessing that if I do my job well, I don't know, we're probably talking about September 1
okay.
for for release. You never know. I mean, so DL was on here, and she and I did a book together. Still, it's been, I don't know, it's been almost 2 months, and the book still hasn't hit the shelves yet on Audible. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with that, but
They do like to take their time.
the Audible gods. I mean, sometimes they'll release a book the week that you turn it in, and other times it's like, nope, we'll get to it when we get to it. So the Earth is round. I guess we'll find out. So. All right, Bradley Carter. Well, thank you very much for all your time. I appreciate, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with me, and I hope that we get a chance to do this again.
Absolutely, it was fun. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the recommendation for the whiskey. It's pretty good
There
stuff.
she is. There's DL Lane. She and I. So I got to tell you, DL and I have been. This has been like an exercise in patience. I think we did our book. It had to be 2 months ago that we turned it into the QC gods at Audible, and I mean, it's like when you're sitting in a restaurant and you got there and then you see somebody walk in half an hour after you do, and then they get served and you're still waiting for your food.
Yeah.
It's like that. But I guess we can't complain otherwise. I don't want to make Audible angry with me. Whatever it is that we did, we're sorry. We really would like to see our book hit the shelves, but I keep
they know they're slacking.
Yeah, I keep hitting that thing to see when our book's going to hit the shelves, but it hasn't yet. But I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, Bradley, thank you again for your time. I've got more audio coming up tomorrow. I'm going through the proofing process, so we'll be getting this out in or at least we'll be getting it into the hands of Audible in the next week or so.
Sounds
all right.
Perfect.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great time in Indy, and I will have a great time in the Lou and
St. Louis.
In St. Louis, yeah, and have a great rest of your week, and enjoy that whiskey. Keep drinking the whiskey. Eat some chocolate. Like try chocolate with your whiskey. That'll be good. Have a good. It'll go great. Like that Japanese whiskey will go great with a hamburger.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and you know what else will be good with is like popcorn, like chocolate covered popcorn. So.
Oh wow.
We'll
think about that.
Next time we do a live, we'll try a different whiskey, and we'll do some kind of a cool pairing with it. So
sounds good. Definitely sounds good.
All right, man. Well, have a great time. Thank you for everybody who hung out with us and put up with me blabbering at the mouth. But we'll catch you online. All right.